Ladies and gentlemen, it's time for another episode of Mind Your Puckin' Business with your host, Jeffrey Krentzman.
Thank you, Dougie Sticks. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you're listening to us from. Coming to you, as always, from the beautiful studios of Undefeated Media here in Bergen County, New Jersey.
Thank you.
This is Mind Your Puckin' Business, brought to you, as always, by our good friends at the Bamboozle Project. So check them out if you haven't checked them out yet. We got some good feedback on the gear. I wore the hat last week on the show from the Bamboozle Project. A lot of people asked about that and inquired about that, so I know they checked out the Bamboozle Project website. This is episode number 66. That would be 66 on the Spanish dial for those following. And you can email your questions at any time to mypbshow@gmail.com. Now, the last 2 weeks with the Rangers being off, we did take a lot of viewer questions to kind of fill some time slots. Or fill some time on the show, I should say. We're going to take a few today later on when we get to the Rangers. I have a couple that were sent in the last day or two, which I promised people we will get to. And if you're tuning into us, you can watch us on the video feed. And if you're doing that already on YouTube, you see we have a special guest live in the studio today, which we'll get to in a minute. Or you can find us, the audio portion of the program, on Spotify and iTunes.
There's one thing you forgot.
And I did. Well, I was getting to it.
Go ahead.
And Facebook.
Yeah. Well, I was going before that.
Go ahead.
The Bamboozle Project wants you guys to hook you guys up with swag.
Yes.
So if you use the promo code MYPB, you get 25% off everything, I believe, on their website, period, whether it's MYPB related or not. So definitely use the promo code. They just want to hook you up with some swag.
And they do a good job of it. And I am proof that the promo code does work. Because when I got some stuff a couple weeks ago, I put it in. It's not like the sort of thing where you need to have a certain amount of money for the promo code to be activated. One of those things that companies can do from time to time. No, straight up MYPB in the promo code box, and 25% magically comes off. Yeah, so we take that. How are you, Dougie Sticks?
Great. Excited. This is a good episode. I like this. Is going to be some good stuff today.
We do. And we're going to bring in, for those following on the video feed, you do see we have a guest, and this is Chris Ma. How are you, Chris?
Good, Jeff. How are you?
We are good. Now, Chris, well, I'm going to tell the story of how we met, or how I met Chris, although your story with Doug may be a little bit different. So we talked on the show back in December, which now seems like years ago with everything in the last 2 months of the first 2 months of the year with Omicron and all that stuff. But we did an event. Actually, it was Thanksgiving weekend. I stand corrected, at the end of November. We did this Shop Wyckoff Holiday Expo, small business Saturday event. We were there, as was Santa Claus. So we thank Santa Claus for showing up in his busy schedule to hang with us at Mind Your Puckin' Business. And we were at the Shop Wyckoff Holiday Expo, and you know, the merchants within the shopping center were there, and I met you, Chris, and you were nice enough to put some free samples out of your Chinese restaurant. And instantly, it's been like a little obsessive love affair that I've had with your restaurant. As around the studio, the guys here make fun of me because how obsessed I really am with it. So why don't you give us, if you don't mind, give us a little background on I know you have two locations. Obviously, you have the one at Wyckoff, 637 Wyckoff Ave, and you're also in Upper Montclair, 199 Bellevue. How do we pronounce it? Bellevue? Bellevue Ave, yeah. Okay. So why don't you give us a little background on the restaurant, how it got started, and how you got involved?
Well, we actually first started TS Mob. We were actually in Manhattan. Our first location was in, I think, right across the street from Madison Square Garden. So we started there in 1987. And I think we left about 2004 or so. And we started up in New Jersey. Our next location, it wasn't actually called TS Mob. It was called Ling Ling in Millburn. And then we started our location in Montclair first, I believe. It's been too long. I don't even remember. But Montclair's been there for at least 13 years now. And in Wyckoff, we've been here about 4 years.
Okay. Yeah, we taped the show. We come to you from, I know we say Bergen County, New Jersey, but we actually are in Wyckoff as well, where the restaurant is. I mean, we could walk there. I would say Absolutely. It would be a little bit of a walk, but we certainly could, especially if you were in the athletic type.
And that's why we did the Holiday Expo. So, you know, I guess you could say I'm responsible for you guys knowing each other because, you know, we put this little Holiday Expo on and you guys got to meet, and, you know, the rest is history.
The rest is history. So before we get to you, Doug, I know you guys had put together a little promo, which we're going to show for the people following the video feed. But before we get to that, I think one thing for me that, I mean, look, we all have Chinese restaurants we like or that we're loyal to. But one thing that I think is different about TS Ma is the stuff that I have gotten is of a higher quality. It is not your standard. And I remember you told me this on the Saturday where I met you. And it's really true now that I've had your food about 18 times in the last 6 weeks. But it's a higher quality Chinese food. Is that really what the goal and the focus is there?
Yeah, we're trying to, for our restaurant, we try to kind of get rid of the stereotype of having Chinese food, Chinese takeout being oily and greasy, unhealthy. We want it to be a better quality ingredients, higher, obviously high quality meats, no canned vegetables. We don't use any canned vegetables. Our chicken's only white meat chicken. Our beef is only flank steak beef. So we try and get as high quality as the ingredients as we can. So we believe that is just, we believe in a just in a healthier eating style.
Okay. So I am obsessed with the one thing that I am, I mean, it's beyond an obsession that I plan my schedule around the days that I'm up here. So I can get it every day. Is this they have a steamed chicken dish. And this is what you told me about in November when we met, because as always, I'm trying to lose weight. I'm not going to say I'm successful with it, but I try, and I try to eat healthy. So the one dish that I've been getting, which I think is like all world, is a steamed chicken dish that you guys do with fresh ginger and garlic. That has, I guess there's no oil in it, right? It's completely healthy.
Just a little oil, just to saute with the garlic and ginger, just to prevent any burning. But other than that, there's no real oil.
It is. I mean, if you are in Bergen County, Passaic County, Essex County, because I guess Montclair would cover that too, right?
Yep.
If you are trying to eat healthy, and I'm going to throw Weight Watchers in here because I'm familiar with the Weight Watcher point system, and we are in the beginning of the year still where everybody does the New Year resolution where I'm trying to be healthy. And you're at a point now where you're not sure, like if you're going to continue with it, it's been 7 weeks of dieting, all that stuff. Go to TS Mom, get the steamed chicken with this fresh ginger and garlic, and you will see how easy, low point, low calorie, low carb as well, healthy eating can be. You will thank me for that dish. So if you're following on the video feed, Dougie Sticks, if you want to play this a little promo kind of behind the scenes thing there, and there you go. So if you're following us on iTunes and Spotify, I know it's going to be, you're probably thinking, what are you seeing? But the video, to give you, I guess it's hard to do play by play.
Well, why don't you let Chris, because like, there's a big point right here. I know when I filmed this, like everything in there is fresh vegetables, freshly cut. So Chris, why don't you, while we're giving a little play by play, like we're watching the sport.
So pretty much, we just got another shipment of our fresh vegetables. Probably get a shipment in at least 3 or 4 times a week. So all of our chefs prepare everything by hand. So all the vegetables are freshly cut. That video right there is
that's the ginger, right?
Garlic and ginger, chicken and broccoli, and that's some of our wonton soup. That's our sesame chicken. So
you had the other thing, really what you were sampling that Saturday, I remember, was that the General Tso's was a different type of General Tso's. Now, I like the other type of General Tso's, but it's always fried. It's always overly crispy and oily. This was a totally different version of General Tso's, which was healthier and better.
It was a huge hit.
Yes.
What's the secret, Chris?
Well, better ingredients. Better ingredients.
Absolutely.
Yeah. As I said, it is a higher quality Chinese food establishment. If you are in Wyckoff or Montclair or anywhere near there, you don't have to be in any of those 2 towns, because I live half hour away from Wyckoff and I have made some trips up this way just to get it. Go and get TS Ma. You will thank us at MYPB show.
Nice.
So
good stuff.
Anything else you want to say, Dougie Sticks, about it? I know you're familiar with it.
It's great. We been doing some behind the scenes filming. That's where some of those clips came from. So we're actually seeing like fresh ingredients, freshly cut. It's like when Jeff says like he'll drive a half hour, I think TS Ma's like in the 2 hour range. Like I would drive an hour, 2 hours, because it's like totally different than what you would expect from like, your average place. Like they take it up a notch.
Yeah. So, I would agree. A half hour is where I drive from, but I would drive from work, especially if you're trying to eat healthy. I think look, you can like Chinese food, and Chinese food does have the stereotype, and maybe it's true to an extent, that normally it's unhealthy, right? It's a lot of oil and MSG and all that stuff. TS Ma gives you Chinese food and not the guilt. When I eat the dish that I eat there, I never feel guilty like I do if I go somewhere else. Like, why did I eat that?
And it tastes better.
Yes.
So it's better for you and it tastes better, which is great. Now there are some things coming up, Chris. I don't know if you want to touch base on. I think you want to go into like the expansion and how like we're gonna be like, is that top secret? Is that top secret?
Well, right now we're working on something on the store next door in Wyckoff, so we're trying to expand our kitchen and have just a takeout area for pickup only from that side, just so it doesn't interfere with the dine-in side. So just trying to make things more convenient for the customers. So we have a dine-in side and a pickup area side specifically for the one location.
Let me ask you a question. It's a general question, as not really. Well, you'll answer it from the TS Ma, but we could really ask anybody that's in the restaurant business. The last 2 years, obviously with COVID and people not going out, are you starting to see now people getting back to the dine-in like it was, or are we still not there yet?
It's been improving a lot more. There was obviously with Omicron, there was a little bit of a blip, but it's been picking up a lot more. I think a lot of people have been waiting to go out. Definitely the food tastes better when it's freshly made in the restaurant and you're not driving it another 20, 30 minutes home. But yeah, it's definitely been a uptick in dine-in.
That's good. So my wife and I with our kids have started. I mean, we were not in restaurants for an extended period of time, but now we have kind of opened the door to doing that again. And we've been doing that probably more than we should because we didn't have it. And it is nice to be back in restaurants. So I know that when I've been in TS Ma a bit lately, I have seen people dining. So I figure that is a good sign that it is back to in person. So once again, check out TS Ma. If you are in the Montclair area, you can go and check them out. And that is at 199 Bellevue Avenue in Upper Montclair. If you're in Bergen County area, you can check them out at 637 Wyckoff Avenue. Their website, which I will tell you what it is, I have it up here, tsma.chinesecuisine.com is excellent. You can see their menu, and you do get the feeling that you can see right away that it is a higher quality Chinese establishment. And you can also check on the website. It will tell you where they deliver to in the towns that, are within the radius of each store.
So on the screen right now is the Instagram page, and I believe that covers both locations. So you could find everything TS Ma there as well. And we were talking about takeout. Chris was telling me the other day, like they do like trials and see what packaging works best and make sure that the transit and the route of these deliveries are optimum and prime. So the flavor and the heat are all like everything is meticulously thought out.
It is awesome.
Yes.
You will thank us at MYPB. So we thank you, Chris, for talking about TS Ma. Now, Chris is also a New York Rangers season ticket holder.
Yeah.
So how fitting that you've landed on a podcast that not only wants to talk about your restaurant, but we talk about the Rangers here in our everyday vocabulary. It's what we talk about. So you're going to hang around and talk some Rangers with us. So the second half of the season begins tonight. Now, it may not be the actual halfway part of the season in terms of games played, and they played more than 41 games already of the 82 they will play, but there was a 3-week gap in the schedule where there were no games scheduled originally because the players were supposed to be in Beijing in the Olympics. Now, that didn't happen, and the league then spent the last 3 weeks kind of making up games that had gotten canceled along the way because of COVID. Now the league starts up again tonight, and the Rangers go right to work in a very busy schedule and an important schedule where they are in Madison Square Garden tonight, and we're taping the show on Thursday, the 24th of February. I should say that. They are in the Garden tonight against a divisional rival, the Washington Capitals. They then actually on Saturday go and they play Pittsburgh, who is really playing as well as the Rangers. And oddly enough, Dougie Sticks,
yes.
If you are into scheduling, the Rangers will play Pittsburgh 4 times in the season. They haven't played once yet. So they have 4 meetings with the Penguins coming up. I know they are home versus the Penguins really within twice in 9 days in the end of March and beginning of April. And they have 2 road games in Pittsburgh, one of which is Saturday. So a big start right away for this team, and they'll be tested tonight with Washington coming in. So as we get into the last 8 or 9 weeks of the regular season, and remember here, because of COVID, the NHL regular season normally will end the second week of April. It usually ends around the 9th or 10th on the second weekend. This year, it will go to the end of the month. So the playoffs, which means good news for you, because you love talking about hockey, Dougie Sticks, is that we will be talking about hockey through probably the summer
Nice.
and June, as the Stanley Cup will be pushed back a little bit. So what do you look for in the next 8 or 9 weeks with the New York Rangers hockey team? So there's still a lot that will be learned about with this team. I know, we talked in the beginning of the year, and I go back to this a lot when Dan Rosen from the NHL.com was here back in October, which was, look, the Rangers need this year to try to make the playoffs. That was the goal of this team. Now, with where they stand today, if they were not to make the playoffs for somehow, it would be a colossal collapse and we all would go crazy and panic, which is fair. They've had such a good season that now making the playoffs, I don't want to say it's inevitable because it's not. Crazier things have happened. We've seen this, but they should be there. So what is really going to be the topic of conversation in the next 8 or 9 weeks as the Rangers get there? So first things first, in the NHL, there is the trade deadline. This year, because of COVID, as I said, everything is pushed back a little bit. The trading deadline in previous years, I always seem to remember it being February 28th. I don't know if that's true or not, or end of February. This year, it is March 21st. So in the next 3.5 weeks until we get to the trade deadline, the general manager of the New York Rangers, Chris Drury, is going to have a lot of questions to answer, and he's going to be taking a lot of phone calls. So as I have said, the term that I've used on this show a ton, and I know, Dougie Sticks, you're familiar with the show because you hear me say it all the time, is window of opportunity, right? The Rangers are at the beginning of the window of probably 5 to 7 years or 5 to 8 years of having a great chance to win it. You're not going to have the same window when Artemi Panarin and Mika Zibanejad are at the back end of their contracts. A lot of these players are in their prime now, so the window of opportunity is opening now. Do you want to see Chris Drury this year give up a lot at the trade deadline to increase his odds this 1 year to make a push? To me, everyone knows where I stand on it. I don't want to give up a lot in a trade deadline to get a rental along those lines, if you will, to make a push for just this season. Sure, I would like them to win the Stanley Cup this year. There probably would be nobody happier than me. I will do cartwheels down the Canyon of Heroes at the Stanley Cup ticker tape parade in July if it happens. But I don't want to give up a lot of pieces here to make one push this year, knowing that I think there's probably 5 to 7 years of additional pushes this team is going to get. Now, a couple of interesting names that have been out there. The Rangers have been linked to Joe Pavelski in Dallas for a while. I've heard this all year. Tomas Hertl has been a name from San Jose that the Rangers have been linked to as well. Phil Kessel, who everybody knows, he's been around the league, and B-Rock's nodding his head over there laughing, I could see in the corner, is another name that's been linked. Again, I don't have a problem with any of these guys coming here at all, and I think that there is an opportunity that I could see any of those three names. I could see where they would fit on the current roster. It all comes down to me as to what you are going to give up. Now, Chris Drury is very lucky in the sense he's got a lot of assets right now. He's got a ton of prospects that people would want and would be happy to take. I just don't want to go see him give up a lot for a rental player.
So we are live, and you're right on topic. We want to remind you guys that since we're live, you can put questions in the comments section, and we can answer them live. This is going exactly what you're talking about right now. Brian asks, who on the Rangers are you willing to part ways with that also has the highest trade value?
Who on the Rangers are you willing to part ways with that also has the highest trade value? I would think Niels Lundqvist, the defenseman. He has not had a good season, right? I think he was the Rangers' highest rated prospect going into the season, but he hasn't had a good season. I think they're okay defensively in the future. If you can get someone back for him, I think there could be value that comes back there. The other name, and I don't want to bring it up because it makes me nauseous, is Kravtsov, right? Kravtsov, there's still value out there. There's been rumors that Jeff Gordon in Montreal, who certainly is familiar with Kravtsov because he's the person who drafted him, may be interested as well. So I would be fine to do that. I see there's a couple. There's another one up there as well.
Oh, just someone was saying they were a little late. They hope they didn't miss your recap of the hockey season.
Nah, Chris is on time. We got it. We just started.
Chris, do you have any thoughts on the trade deadline coming up?
Yeah, I really would like them to see them do something. They definitely need a top six forward out there. Like with Niels Lundqvist, Kravtsov, they're definitely pieces that other teams hopefully do want, especially Lundqvist. But I'm looking for, hopefully they do something to fill that spot where Sammy Blais was, and just have somebody just solidify that lineup.
You know, the interesting thing about Sammy Blaze,
Mhm.
which you mentioned, and I should have, well, I probably will mention it next week. You know, if we remember PK Subban, you know, kind of Sluban, if you will, had the incident with Sammy Blaze that knocked him out with a torn ACL. Rangers have not played the Devils since. They will play PK Subban and the Devils next Friday night, a week from tomorrow at the Garden. So it should be interesting. I'm sure the Rangers have not forgotten about that play.
So we have a nice little stretch of games: the Capitals, the Penguins, and the Devils. Right?
Well, they
That's
play. So they'll have 3 and 4 nights. So now Shesterkin will play tonight versus the Caps. I'm assuming Shesterkin will play Saturday in Pittsburgh. They then come home to play Vancouver on Sunday night. I'm assuming that would be Georgiev.
Mhm.
They're not going to play Shesterkin 3 and 4. It doesn't seem to make sense to me.
Mhm.
And then they'll play the Blues at home on Wednesday, and then the Devils at home on Friday, which is always fun. Even though the Devils stink, which is fine with me. I'm not trying. I'm just stating facts. I'm not being rude. I mean, I'm just
Well,
telling you.
that's your neighbor, bro. It's like you guys are like, neighbors. It's like pass the salt.
Yeah, it's fine. Look, if the Devils are good, I'll tell you the Devils are good, but they're not. They're horrible. But whenever the Rangers play the Devils,
Yes.
I throw out the records and I'll get into it. I will give you an example.
Yeah.
I'm going to go back. You can look this up. You ready?
Okay, here we go.
It was either 2000 or 2001.
Yes.
The Rangers played the Rangers stunk. They were awful. This was like the Glenn Sather, John Muckler years, and the Rangers were terrible.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
I was in college in Boston.
Mhm.
I came home. It was winter break. It was either winter break or February break or spring break or something. I was home,
Mhm.
and the Rangers played the Devils at the Garden. Now this was when the Devils were in their heyday. Brodeur, Scott Stevens, Ken Danico, all these guys,
Yeah.
right? And they had it was a Saturday or Sunday afternoon game at the Garden. I took my college roommate, whose also name was Jeff. He was not into the Ranger hockey at all. He grew up in Connecticut.
Mhm.
We went because tickets were easy to get because the Rangers were god awful.
Mhm.
And it was probably one of the most exciting games I've ever been to. Sandy McCarthy, who was a guy who played on the Rangers, you wouldn't know him, was like a little kind of thug. He was not a good guy. He was not a goal scorer, if you will. And the game was awesome. It ended up in a 4-4 tie. This was before shootout, so games could end in ties.
Mhm.
So keep in mind, the Devils there were in their heyday.
Yeah.
The Rangers were god awful,
Okay.
and they tied. You throw out records when the Rangers played the Devils. So yes, next Friday night, I'm saying
So they
the Devils
tied one game, and like that's like the definition of their careers.
No, I'm telling you that I'm saying you throw out the records
right.
when the Rangers play the Devils because it's a rivalry game.
Yeah,
and any game, Chris knows he's a Ranger fan. If the Devils were to beat the Rangers next week or the two times they play at the Rock in the spring, would you sit here? Would I sit there and be surprised and bet the mortgage on the Rangers? No, it's a rivalry game. Anything can happen.
Well, what I'm saying is like it could be a good rivalry. Like here's my whole thing about it. Everyone has left us, Jeff. We live in New Jersey. Everyone has left us. It's the only team we got left in New Jersey. So like you don't have to like them, but like they're your neighbor. Like I like the Rangers. I like the Devils.
Yeah,
too.
but you also have a keychain I saw before
that was given to me for free. You want to give me another keychain? I'll attach it to. I'll have 2 keychains. I'll rep both of them for you.
Look, there are 2 teams in sports
Yes.
that I hate. Right.
Yes.
I'm a sports guy. You know this. We cover a lot of sports on the show. I mean, we focus more on hockey and the Rangers, but there's 2 teams in professional sports I hate. The Boston Red Sox.
Okay.
And the other team that I hate more than any other team is the New Jersey Devils. And I don't care where I live. I just can't stand the Devils.
Okay.
I've never, as a Ranger fan, I'm a little different. I mean, Chris, you can tell me if you're the same. So I'm 42. So I was not really a Ranger fan when the Islanders were in their heyday in their 80s. I was 3 years old.
Mhm.
I've never hated the Islanders. I don't like them. But I don't have the disdain for them that I do the Devils because the Devils were good when I was, in my 20s, and I had to deal with this nonsense. And they played the most boring style of hockey in the neutral zone trap, where they would load up the neutral zone and they would trap you, and they had all good defensemen and Scott Niedermayer and Scott Stevens and Ken Danico and an all world goalie and Brodeur. It was awful growing up here. Then I'm allowed to hate them, man.
All right. Chris, what are your feelings on the Devils? It seems like this has turned into a Devils segment right here.
I'm not too sure if I should mention anything. I don't want to affect my business.
All right, next we have a live question. It says it all. We have a live question here from Chris Moore. Wouldn't trading someone like Nils be better suited for a long-term piece like Strom's replacement if they can't re-sign him over getting a rental?
Yes, I would agree with Chris 100%. The key is to make sure that what you are trading for Nils is
Yeah.
going to be a long-term replacement and is signed to be a long-term replacement, because Larry Brooks actually had this morning in the New York Post. For those who read the New York Post these days, and there's probably few of you that do, but I do.
Ouch.
I'm just throwing zingers today, man.
Yeah.
I'm throwing zingers. Is that Ryan Strome and the Rangers remain pretty far off here, and you cannot really afford Strome because you're not going to sign him to an 8-year deal for a number 2 center when you also have Zibanejad signed to an 8-year deal as a center as well. And you can't have them both locked up to their 37. So, and it's going to be hard with Strome to make a short-term deal work cap-wise. So you might be better off, as Chris is saying, trading Nils, or maybe having to put someone else in the deal as well that you can use to acquire a cost-controlled center for the number 2. Look, I think we would all love Ryan Strome to be back. I would like that to happen, especially when you look at the chemistry he has had with Artemi Panarin since they've started playing together 3 years ago. But I don't know if it's going to happen, and it sounds like it's going to be hard. The Rangers would miss Ryan Strome. We would love him to be back, but I don't know that it will happen. So the Rangers, here are some other things as well with them. You still got to figure out the Nemeth situation. He's back this week. He has not been a good signing in the offseason. When he came from Colorado, I remember when I believe, if I remember this right, when free agency opened in the summer, it was whatever the day was. Let's say it was July 1st, and it was not. It usually is because of COVID. It was not. There usually will be signings leaked like 4 or 5 days prior. Like you'll know where someone's going to sign. Nemeth was like the first domino that fell. That was the Rangers' first thing, and it was reported like on Wednesday. When it can become official, they were going to sign Nemeth. It never got a lot of press. It was really done because they wanted him actually to tutor Nils because they're both from Finland, and it just has not been a good signing. So I think you're going to look in the next couple of weeks before the trade deadline to see if you need to replace him via trade, and that may be via bringing someone in from trade rather, and that may be something as well. The other thing is do you try and get a bottom 6 forward on this team? To me, as Chris agreed before as well, I don't know that you want to give up a lot. You're fine making a move, but I don't know. Do you really want to give up a top prospect? Probably not for a bottom 6 forward. Do you want to give up a first-round pick? Probably not. So there's that as well.
Well, here's the thing. We talked about this at the beginning of the season.
By the way, can I say something?
Yeah.
I like how you have the Devils keychain and then you refer to the Rangers as we. I like this.
Dude, it was given to me. It's the last team.
So
where's my keychain? Here's the keychain. All right. It
I
says New Jersey.
I don't need to see it. I've seen it.
Is this like whatchamacallit, like sunlight for a vampire or something?
Yeah, I've seen
it. All right. It's a New Jersey Devil keychain. Sure. All right.
But we.
Yes, because I am a Ranger fan as well. I'm with you. So at the beginning of the season, we didn't have high expectations. We have blown those expectations out of the water. We are at the beginning stages of opening this window, right? We just unlocked the latch. We're opening this window. I don't think you should be making drastic moves. If you want to make parallels, you could kind of like make parallels to the Rams, who just won the Super Bowl. You had Aaron Donald. You had some nice pieces of the puzzle, but they just recently, towards the end of those like careers, they said, let's make a move, and they got these superstars. I think you're at the beginning stages that, we already exceed expectations, and now we're getting greedy. Like, let's get let's sell the farm so we can make it to the Stanley Cup this year. I think you should, count your blessings.
So the Rangers have not been to the playoffs since 2017.
You're eager to go.
2018 was a bad year. Alain Vigneault got fired after the final game on a Saturday afternoon in Philly.
Yep.
David Quinn was here for a couple of years. I'm not going to count the fact they had a play-in 3-game series versus Carolina as making the playoffs because it really wasn't up in the bubble. So the Rangers haven't been there for a while. So let me just throw out a little refresher for some Ranger fans out there.
Yeah, the newbies.
No, it's not newbies.
Myself, I'm throwing myself in there.
What I am about to say,
I
don't want to say is the answer here.
Okay,
but it is common sense that we have forgotten, and the Ranger fans should know this because of Henrik Lundqvist. The Rangers are going to go.
Yes.
As far in the playoffs as they're going to go, whether that's out in 4 games or somehow winning 16 total games and having a parade down the Canyon of Heroes, which is what we want. They're going to go as far as they're going to go because of how far Igor Shesterkin is going to take them. 100%, right?
Okay.
So I'm fine with making some moves. Again, I don't want to give up a top prospect. I don't want to give up a first-round pick. I understand the farm system is better than it's been. I understand, the rebuild from the famous letter that they sent out to season ticket holders has gone better than anyone could have ever imagined. And a lot of that is because of lotto ball luck. Let's be real, but we'll take it. But the team is going to go as far as Igor Shesterkin is going to take them. Case closed.
All right. Case
Right?
closed. Well, it's case closed. I can't say anything more.
No,
I'm joking.
saying,
I'm joking.
That's what it's going to be.
All right.
So, but stay tuned. We're going to try. I'm going to try and get Dan Rosen back on before the trade deadline. I'll reach out to him next week because it would be really interesting. I'm curious with him to see if he would agree that it makes sense for this team to not give up a lot because of this window of opportunity. If anyone's opinion is out there that I would be curious to see and would know, it's Dan Rosen. So we will try and get him back. So we got some questions over the last couple days about stuff around the league. And it wasn't really, I don't want to say it was like the nicest email that I've seen us get, but it wasn't the rudest either. And it was like,
you got some hate mail?
No, we don't get the hate mail, but it was somebody asking to cover stuff outside of New York. Like,
well, we got listeners from around the globe.
So we're going to do that. We're going to go around the league.
Yeah.
I decided that since we're about to start the second half of the season, let's go around the league. So let's look at some standings and cover some other teams.
What was the question? I mean, if it was for one team, we can answer that question.
Well,
you don't have to do a whole recap of the entire league.
The question, oddly enough, was about the Colorado Avalanche, which is a Western Conference team.
Okay.
So it came in yesterday. So we're gonna go around and look at the other divisions. We do this from time to time. And I feel like right now is a good time to do it because we're getting started in the second half of the season.
Mm-hmm.
You know, tonight after the quote unquote Olympic break that didn't really happen. So let's start here. Let's really make people mad and start right in the Rangers division, in the Metropolitan division. We won't go far. Sure. So the Rangers sit a point behind Pittsburgh. The Rangers have 2 games at hand. And again, they will play head to head for the first time this Saturday. If you look at this division and you look at the Atlantic division as well, because again, they kind of merge when you figure out the playoff situation. The top 8 teams would actually be the top 4 teams in each division right now would make it. And the bottom team would be 62 points would be the Bruins. So the Bruins would be like the wild card 2 team. The team that is beyond next to them after Boston is actually a 10-point drop in the Red Wings. So if you look at the Eastern Conference, you can almost, I don't want to say you would bet your mortgage on it, but you could be pretty sure that the 8 teams are going to be the Panthers, the Lightnings, the Maple Leafs, the Bruins, the Hurricanes, the Penguins, the Rangers, and the Capitals. The issues are going to be here with the Metropolitan Division is who is the 2-3 and who is the wild card is going to be really the thing that may come down to the end. I do like Carolina to win the Metropolitan Division. I've been high on them for a long time. If you've listened to the show, they are up. They have a 4-point lead, but they also have games at hand. And I just think that right now they're the best team. Doesn't mean I believe in them in the playoffs with their goaltending situation and some other stuff. But I do think the Hurricanes will finish in the 1 slot in the Metropolitan Division. And I do think the Rangers will finish in the 2 or 3. And they will either probably play the Penguins or the Capitals in round 1, which would be fun, would be intense. See, Chris, like I look at this and I've seen the Rangers play the Caps so many times in the playoffs. I just don't want to do that again. I want something else.
Well, both the teams are very different from before, so
yeah,
I wouldn't mind seeing it again.
That's true. I guess we're not dealing with like Braden Holtby again and all that stuff, but I'm done. I don't want to see Ovechkin fire slap shots from the top right of the point. Like I've had enough of that. I've seen enough of that over the years. And they don't have Girardi or McDonough to shut them down like they did for years. So it'll be interesting to see what happens in the Metro Division. If you go in the Atlantic Division, you have a good race here at the top 3 between right now Florida, Tampa, and the Maple Leafs. It certainly looks like you would think the Bruins are going to be the last team in that conference and would probably be lining up for either the Panthers or the Hurricanes in round 1. Now, we have to give Florida Panthers credit, and I said this about a month or 2 ago, was that the Florida Panthers had a great start. I believe they started 10-0. As a matter of fact, they lost their first game of the season was in the Garden back in November. And they went through this whole thing with Joel Quenneville, their coach, who was involved in this whole Blackhawks mess, sexual abuse case. He got fired. And somehow, getting a new coach and going through all that and being a young team, they find themselves actually at the top of the Eastern Conference at 35-11-5. So give them a lot of credit. They're having a good year. I'm not going to count Tampa out. Look, when you've won the last 2 Stanley Cups, you'd be foolish to sit here and count them out. They still have the same coach. They still have John Cooper. They still have the same goalie. So I'm not counting the Lightning out. And I'd even go as far to say as I wouldn't want to play the Lightning in the playoffs for that exact reason, right? I mean, I don't want to be the team that has to face the Lightning in the playoffs. The Maple Leafs, it's the same script every year. This is now the third. This will be the third, believe it or not. This will be the third playoffs that we will cover on this show. And I say the same thing with the Maple Leafs every year. They just cannot get out of the first round. They can have as good of a regular season as anyone. They can torch the regular season, and they cannot get out of the first round. There is a Amazon Prime. If you have Amazon Prime and you're able to stream it, there is a series that they followed last year on the Maple Leafs, like behind the scenes. It's
like a Hard Knocks.
Yes, Hard Knocks. It's the entire season.
Wow.
I completely recommend it. It's awesome to watch. It gives you insight behind the scenes, and you actually see them go through the regular season, getting the 1 seed, and then losing in 7 games to Montreal. And it just, while they had a 3-1 lead actually in the series, and it just reminds you, this team cannot win a playoff series. I will say this. If they won a playoff series, right, I feel like they would be so over the moon ecstatic that fans would settle for it. I can't see them winning 4 playoff series. I can't. Now, with Boston, the Boston issue is goaltending. You don't have Tuukka Rask there anymore. I mean, do you really believe in the Swayman kid that's up there? Probably not. And some of these guys like Bergeron and whatnot are older. Look, you still have Pasternak. You still have Marchand when he's playing and he's not killing people out there. Charlie Coyle is a good defenseman up there. They've got some pieces, but this is not the same Bruin team. So if you're asking me like the person asked in the email yesterday, and I'm going to be nice and answer it, to make predictions here, I do think out of the Atlantic Division bracket, you know what? It's going to be the Panthers or the Lightning because I can't see the Maple Leafs getting through a bunch of rounds, and I don't like the Bruins. I'm going to say the Lightning again, right? Why am I going to go against? If it ain't broken, don't fix it. I'm going to say the Lightning again. The Metropolitan Division, okay, a little biased here, obviously. Again, I don't know that I like Carolina to go deep in the playoffs. I think they're great. I think they're good. I don't know if I trust them in the playoffs, although would I be surprised if they got out of the Metro and got to the Eastern Conference Finals? No. Man, I'm telling you what I want to do, but I'm going to be called a homer here. So you know what I want to do. You know what I want to do. Oh, man, I don't know. You know what? The Metro is going to be a really tight race. I mean, a lot of these teams are even. I mean, would you be surprised if the Penguins, even though we would want to vomit if they won again? I mean, would you be surprised if they came out of it? Probably not. I don't trust Tristan Jarry in the playoffs. I remember how terrible he was in the last time he was in the playoffs against the Islanders. I don't know. I mean, it could be the Rangers. Look, if Shesterkin plays well, it's going to be the Rangers. We'll leave it at that. If he doesn't, it's not. So we'll leave it at that before I'm called a homer. I don't want to do that. I try to be fair, right? I don't want to ever be accused of being biased. That's not why
using emotion for these choices and these bets.
Look, the Rangers are going to go as far as Igor Shesterkin takes them.
So was that a complete NHL recap?
That was an Eastern Conference, Dougie.
And that's the whole. Oh, that's just the Eastern Conference. We got more. All right, keep it going. Yeah.
We're gonna go west, and because the question came in regarding the Colorado Avalanche, I'm gonna take the Central Division first, where they are. The Colorado Avalanche have a 12-point lead in the division, and certainly look like they're going to win the Central Division and the Western Conference for that sense. They have actually a 12-point lead in both their division as well as the entire conference. So they'll be the 1 seed out there. Colorado is young. Obviously, they've got a bunch of good players: Kadri, McKinnon, Landeskog, Makar. They're coached well as well. Look, at some point, the Avalanche remind me of the Rangers a little bit, where they have young people. They're probably maybe 2 or 3 years ahead of us in the window of opportunity. So yes, I am going to be big on the Avalanche in the Western Conference. I do think the Wild have had a really good year. They've overachieved to an extent, 31-14. You can't get on them for that. The Predators, I'm not buying them. I don't really love John Hines as a coach. I think he's good, but I see B-Rock nodding because he's familiar with them, with the Devils over there in the corner. So I like the Avalanche to come out of the Central. So the person who sent in that question will be happy. Yes, right. Until I see something different. The Pacific Division is a little bit different. You have the Flames, who have played really well. They had a very good start to the season. And the last 10, they are 10-0. I don't know if you noticed that. They have won 10 in a row.
Wow.
So you would not want to be playing the Flames right now. You don't want to be playing a team that's won 10 in a row. But you know what's amazing? With them winning 10 in a row and getting 20 points, they only sit 4 points ahead of Vegas. And Vegas, as we know, got Jack Eichel, your favorite topic.
Jack Eichel.
Do you miss talking about Jack Eichel and where he's going to go?
That segment will always have a special place in our hearts.
Yes, we don't miss that. We don't miss that. We don't miss them. So you have the Golden Knights there at 62 points. You have the Kings at 61. And the Oilers at 59. Now, the Oilers made a coaching change. The Oilers had a great start and then went into a complete free fall under Dave Tippett. They made a coaching change, hired a guy that no one ever heard of, and have been playing a lot better. They're 6-4 in their last 10. I'm not going to count the Oilers out, because if they're playing well and they buy into the new coach's system there, think of all the players they have: McDavid, Draisaitl, etc. You know what? I don't like the Kings, but I'm going to say this. If Jack Eichel starts playing like Jack Eichel can play, Vegas is the best team in that division.
You sounded like if Jack Eichel, how much Jack Eichel would a Jack Eichel if a Jack Eichel
How much could Jack
Eichel?
If Jack Eichel can Jack Eichel in Vegas, they're the best team in that division. And if they are the ones that can come out of the Pacific, and I am right, if I'm right as well, that the Avalanche come out of the Central, a Vegas-Colorado Western Conference final would be awesome because you have such good speed between both those teams. You have such good talent, offensive firepower. That would be a really good series. Now, I would like for the people that listen to us in Canada that occasionally write us, a Canadian team has not won the Stanley Cup final since when, Dougie Sticks? Do you know?
2017.
No, a lot longer than that. 1993.
Oh, yeah, it was off by a couple of years.
You were close when the Montreal Canadiens beat Wayne Gretzky and the LA Kings the year before the Rangers won the Stanley Cup.
Wow.
So I would like to see. I think it's good when Canada, if a Canadian team can get far in the playoffs. I don't really want it to be Toronto or Montreal because they're in the East with the Rangers, but I wouldn't mind seeing like an Alberta team like Edmonton or Calgary, for that matter, make a deep run. I think it's good for the league when that happens.
Nice. Yeah.
So Chris, let me ask you this, Chris. For the Rangers, if I said to you, how far is this team going to go this year? What would be where you sit right now? Where do you think the Rangers will go? How far?
I'm hoping the Eastern Conference Finals. If they can make the Eastern Conference Finals, I'll be pretty happy with that, considering all the stuff that happened last year with everybody getting fired, things like that, going complete opposite direction of what I thought the team was going in. But if they can make the Eastern Conference Finals, I'll be very happy with that. But it all depends on what they're going to do on a trade deadline. So
yeah, you know what, and that's a good point. If the Rangers get, I think, now you got to get out of the first round, whoever you play, and then you're going to want to get out of the second round. If you can get to the Eastern Conference Finals and you lose there, it is a successful season, although it will hurt, right? You get far, you get into it. I mean, you know what the Garden's like. You know what this whole area is like when the Rangers go into deep playoff run. It's awesome. I mean, it's like, Dougie Sticks this show in the spring, if we have them on a deep playoff run, is awesome. I mean, we would be fired up.
Absolutely.
You would have to lose the keychain for the playoffs, the Devil's keychain.
Deal.
That's what we would have to do. But if the Rangers could go on a run and get deep into the playoffs and even not win it can be viewed as a successful season because, as we've talked about, there should be chances beyond this season.
So, it's a very special treat that we have Chris. So since you just did a whole recap of like the whole NHL, Chris, if you're open to it, can you give us your Stanley Cup prediction? Like who will be in the Stanley Cup playoffs? I mean, I know you room for the Rangers, so you can maybe do like a Rangers end and then do another one that's like without the Rangers. But do you have any predictions?
I mean, Colorado's looking really strong. Like Jeff said, it's tough seeing. I mean, especially when I watched the games when the Rangers played Colorado, they got overwhelmed. But I would love to see the Rangers Stanley Cup final. If they play Colorado, it'll be really tough. But I think just because Tampa's won the last 2 seasons and just how they are and the experience they have, I wouldn't be surprised if I see Tampa Bay and Colorado up there.
Yeah, it wouldn't surprise me either. Again, I would love to be wrong on it, but if you've won the last 2, I'm not going to count you out until then. So, well, that's a wrap for today. We thank Chris for joining us. Thanks for coming in, talking some TS Ma and talking some Ranger hockey. You're welcome at any time. And if you're following on the video feed of the program, you can get hungry for lunch and meet me there a little bit later, as I'm always up there. So we thank Chris for coming in. As always, you can send your questions at any time to mypbshow@gmail.com. And as you saw today, we do take your questions. And I do kind of gear some of the topics based on your questions. So thanks for sending them in. Keep sending them in. And again, for the Rangers, a big week as we kind of get started. The Capitals tonight. Then they play a huge game in Pittsburgh over the weekend. They'll come home versus Vancouver. Home versus Pavel Buchnevich comes back to the Garden next Wednesday night in his return. And then the Devils at home. And as I said, throw out records when it's a rivalry game. We will be on next week, back in our regular spot, I can tell you, next Tuesday. We appreciate the shifting around with some stuff going on, but we thank you guys for gearing with us as we're not on our normal day today. But you can find us, as always, on iTunes and Spotify, Facebook, and YouTube. And we will be back on next Tuesday. Anything else on your end, Dougie?
Oh, great show. I'm hungry as well, so definitely check out TS Ma, and we'll catch you next week.
You got it. Thanks for listening, everybody. Take care.